Here's what I'll be thinking about this weekend. China, and more on China. Because earlier this week, the country officially released and publicized that its GDP in 2018 was 6.6%, which was the slowest growth rate it's had for 28 years. China also forecasted that next year it expects its GDP will be mildly higher at 6.7%. Now, it's not often that China releases negative news about its growth figures, but it almost had to this week. But we do need to take the 6.6% also with a pinch of salt, as it probably does not include figures for trade or commerce in its black economy, which of course is massive and for which figures are not always officially released. So why does this matter? Well, as Asia's largest consumer of cars and electronics and of course energy, this is going to have a massive impact on global growth and forecasts for that. And of course this was a concern and a point of heated discussion at the World Economic Forum in Davos in the past week. The IMF also came out and revised its global GDP forecast for the second time in 3 months in the past week based on this news from China, saying that this year GDP will be around 3.5% and possibly go up to 3.6% in 2020. Of course, this news and the adjustments in demand will feature hugely amongst energy exporters and energy producers. OPEC met in December last and decided to cut production by 1.2 million barrels a day during the first half of this year, and whether that's going to be enough to absorb the drop in demand that's going to be forecast as a result of these Chinese figures remains to be seen, and we may find that oil producers may have to readjust their production accordingly. Additionally, the open-ended trade war rhetoric between the US and China continues, and many analysts are now saying that if this actually materializes into a fully fledged trade war, then of course the economic impact will be massive across the globe. But many also are optimistic that a resolution will be found during the year this year, perhaps early into next year, but nevertheless it will still carry a negative sentiment on markets and on economies. The other concern for economies across the world is, of course, the action that the US Federal Reserve may take in the year ahead. We've seen interest rates rise for the last 12 to 18 months to a current rate of about 2.25%, and whether the US Fed will continue to raise interest rates is a question. The problem is that if there's not much time left for interest rates to rise in light of the recent demand forecast from China and other Asian economies, then when recession possibly hits in a year or two, as is being forecasted for the US, rates would not have risen enough, analysts say, to bring them down to actually boost economic activity again. So another concern for global economies. So that's what I'll be thinking about over this weekend. And don't forget to watch us and follow us on Twitter and YouTube and other social media channels.